Hello, everyone, and welcome to what is the final talk of today's conference at ALPS, and thank you all for being here. We are here to talk about the hot topic of the moment, which is the umbrella word that is AI, or artificial intelligence. My name is Leslie Landsman. I am a director here at ALPS, and I am also chair the Public Policy Committee. Joining me to discuss AI today is Dr. Hong Zhao, Director of Intelligence Services Group and AI R&D, where he leads the Intelligence Services Group at the Wiley Partner Solutions, which designs and develops intelligence services to enrich, connect, and discover content and audience data by leveraging AI, big data, and cloud technologies. We also have joining us Will Crook. Will is a public policy manager at PLS, the publisher's licensing services, who is one of the generous supporters of this conference and helps to make it all happen. Will is very involved and working tirelessly on advocating rights holders and creators' interests at the governmental level. And I think I'm not the only person who is personally thankful for all the efforts he has taken, both to try to advance rights holders' interests when it comes to AI policy development and also keeping our entire community informed. So thank you, Will, for all of that. So what is going on? There's lots. It seems right now that with AI, everything is going on everywhere all at once and often to different contradictory degrees. There are a few things that we do know, and one of the things is that all of the people in the room are at the very heart of what the debates or what the developments will be around AI. Current large language models have at least 1 billion or more parameters and are trained on trillions of different tokens. This all translates into almost unthinkable number of text, images, figures, diagrams, audio-visual works, etc., etc. So it's fair to say that we are really at the heart of how this technology will be developed and how these works will be used. So AI owes its very existence to the work of authors, publishers, researchers, and creators, and it is vital that all of their work is used to develop verified and trusted AI systems. From acts of real discrimination to more trivial ideas such as grocery apps providing recipes for chlorine gas, which AI app said was the perfect non-alcoholic beverage to quench your thirst and refresh your senses. We've all seen some bad stories about what happens when our AI goes wrong. So, in the middle of all of this, what are we publishers to do? What are the various concerns that we should be aware of, and what are the potential solutions or opportunities that AI poses to us? So to get us started, perhaps we should start at the real macro level, which is how are governments reacting to the development in AI technologies, particularly generative AI technologies. So Will, kind of over to you. Could you perhaps give us a bit of an update?
Ooh.
This is the AI speaking. What to continue? The robots.
We've been rumbled. Yeah. Well, I will continue.
Yes.
Like Theresa May in Manchester a couple of years, I will continue regardless. And just to say thank you for an immensely flattering introduction, Leslie, that I hope ChatGPT didn't write for you. But yeah, obviously, I think it's fair to say, and everybody will know that AI is the topic of the hour at the moment here, and certainly in Westminster. And recently, meeting an MP there, they actually, the MP will remain nameless, but actually complained that everybody they were meeting at the moment was just talking about AI and nothing else. But that's no bad thing. And since I joined PLS in 2021, I've seen an incredible change. Helped by the emergence of a certain well-known chatbot, it has massively raised public awareness, public discussion, and use, and probably hastened efforts by governments across the world to regulate AI. But I'd like to speak on two important areas. The first is the regulation concerning transparency of AI systems. So can we see what data the models are being trained on and how that data is perhaps being used? And also copyright and how AI firms have obtained the appropriate licenses, perhaps, to copy content for use in training models. And what is the government doing to protect rights holders when AI firms are obtaining the appropriate licenses. And I think those are two overlapping areas, but very important to everybody here. So let's look, firstly, overall AI regulation in the UK. So earlier this year, the government published its long-awaited AI white paper. Long-awaited because it had been promised ever since I started PLS. The white paper proposed a principles-based, regulator-led framework. And this essentially means that existing regulators, such as the Financial Conduct Authority and the Information Commissioner's Office, will be responsible for AI regulation within their respective spheres of regulation. And the white paper also provided principles for each regulator to implement in their own work. And I'm sorry, I'm going to have to read off my list here. My memory's not so great. So they included safety, security, and robustness, appropriate transparency and explainability, fairness, accountability and governance, and contestability and redress. Now, there's not going to be an AI Act, and there's going to be no central AI regulator in the UK, such as how the EU have approached the issue. But the government has said that those principles might actually be given a statutory footing at a later date. Now, you can argue about the merits or otherwise of the UK approach. It's not particularly top-down. And there remains a lot of uncertainty and unanswered questions right now, such as how are regulators going to be best prepared for these extra duties? And how, I've seen the light, and how are regulators going to remain aligned across different sectors? And there will be gaps between those regulators. How are those going to be filled? And in terms of transparency, how does the government plan to enforce any transparency provisions that the white paper mentioned? And some of you may have seen that actually ALPS and PLS were co-signers of a letter sent from the Professional Publishers Association to the Prime Minister, calling for any transparency provisions proposed in the white paper to be given legal footing. So there's still a lot of unanswered questions there, I think. Now, with regard to the relationship between AI and copyright, which is arguably a bigger issue for everybody in the room, IP was mentioned only once in the AI white paper. But that's because the government has already been quite active looking at copyright in terms of AI innovation. And with that pretext of improving AI innovation and trying to take advantage of some Brexit opportunities, you might remember those, last year the government proposed a broad new copyright exception for text and data mining. And this copyright exception would allow free copying of material for the purposes of text and data mining for any reason. And there would be no opportunity for a publisher or rights holder to license their content or opt out either. Now, there didn't really appear to be much evidence that supported the introduction of a new exception. And such a wide exception would have, as we argued, would have perhaps meant that the UK was contravening the Berne Convention and its international obligations. So, with significant opposition from the creative industries, which included ALPS and PLS. And somebody said to me that actually the government had done something amazing. Somebody who'd been around the creative industry for a long time said the government had done something amazing by aligning the creative industries and by agreeing to one thing, which apparently this had not happened ever before. So it did a good job of bringing everybody together, be they artists, publishers, authors, etc., against one thing. Now, after that significant opposition, thankfully the government changed tack and they decided to drop their plans for a new exception and instead draw up a voluntary code of practice. Now, essentially this voluntary code of practice aims to make licenses for data mining more available for AI firms, introduce some of the barriers, and this is the government's terms here, not mine, that AI developers experience when obtaining licenses. Now, this code will set out some commitments and expectations for both AI firms and rights holders regarding the use of copyright-protected material in the training of AI. And it'll also touch amongst elements of AI output too, so labeling of AI-generated content, etc. Now, the IPO is currently holding roundtable meetings between rights holder groups and AI firms to agree to a draft code. And if a code can't be agreed, the government have said that they will legislate, but we don't know what that legislation looks like at the moment. Obviously, with a general election and a new parliamentary term, that might not happen anytime soon. But I think the meetings so far have kind of shown the gap between the two sides on this, or not that side, but between the two groups, with some AI firms stating that they don't actually need to obtain a license. But it appears, even though there is no agreement at the moment, that the IPO and the government are prepared to persevere, and I think the meetings are going to reconvene in the autumn. But to kind of go back to maybe like tech interest and tech interest prevailing, I actually think the pendulum has swung in favour of rights holders recently. And to give a bit of an example, there was two select committee reports, one from the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee and the Science, Innovation and Technology Committee. They were published over the last few weeks, and they were both supportive of copyright and rights holders. And I think that's kind of illustrative of the momentum that has kind of swung behind the rights holders at the moment. I don't think anybody here should be complacent, and I wouldn't sit here and rule out a future exception happening. And obviously, any voluntary scheme, implies there might be problems either with compliance or participation. But I think overall, it's much harder for the government to introduce such a radical change to copyright. And I think, as my MP meeting kind of went on, I think that the sympathies of our parliamentarians are a little bit more aligned to the arguments that rights holders and we're making about licensing, such as that licensing could adapt to meet new technologies, and it works, and it hasn't been proved otherwise yet. Now, I think I should touch very quickly on the EU, very quickly, I think, but compared to the UK, the EU is far more prescriptive in their approach to AI regulation, and the EU's AI Act establishes a classification system based on the level of risk that an AI system could pose to health and safety and the fundamental rights of an individual. So I'm going to read off my list again. I apologise, folks. But those categories are unacceptable risk. So though any AI system in that category would be banned. You have high risk, which would include face recognition technology. Limited risk, which would include certain chatbots. Minimal risk, which would include the spam filters on your email account. And these different rules would apply to an AI system depending on whichever category it was placed in. Now, interestingly, the EU have also included transparency provisions in their AI Act that would mean an AI firm would be required to produce a list of their data, of the data that has been ingested into their system. So that would mean that rights holders would be able to see whether and anybody else would be able to see whether their content and material has been ingested by a certain system. So they've kind of married the two together quite nicely, I think. And interestingly as well, the EU's laws, the EU's AI Act will not only apply to EU organisations, but it also apply to non-EU organisations that supply AI systems to the EU. So that would obviously include UK AI firms operating in the EU. So that could be an interesting development there. But I think on things like the US, I think I'll hand over to you, Leslie, who I know...
Yeah, we should. I think perhaps because I'm the only American on the stage, I'm going to briefly discuss what's going on in the States, which is a slightly different approach. Similar to the UK, there are several different types of consultations going on. The US Copyright Office is currently engaged in a public open comment. Any of you could go on to the Copyright Office's webpage and take a look at what they're examining. The Senate is also focusing right now on the top things they must do around AI before the upcoming election, which I think is in about 13, 14 months in the States. But the big difference in America, I think, compared to what's going on in the EU or the UK, is the amount of litigation. I was on the George Washington University AI database this morning, and there is 94 separate AI lawsuits being filed across the United States. And it's really the outcome, I think, of this litigation that might end up kind of swaying how the US regulates artificial intelligence and large language models. Hong, how does any of this kind of affect you and what you're developing?
Right, that's a big topic, actually. So I just want to add the two more points. So to build on what you just mentioned, and the one is about the AI. AI is so currently the AI, one of the big problems of AI, especially for the large language model, is black box. So no one understands where this result come from, how it come from. But there's some more and more research is happening in this area. So the researcher is trying to identify, to build the link between the source and the result. So we want to give the result For example, they given the conclusion, and then they try to AI model itself. They try to trace back to see which source is contribute more to this conclusion. So I think this is also, if one day, if this happen, this the workout, I think it could help on the identify the copyright issues as well, and maybe even build the more business, new business models, and the publisher content provider can provide this, their content to contribute this, the result, and then they can trace back to see how much contribution you have, and then how much you get receive, etc. So this is the one. Another thing I just see so far the AI, AI governance is lag far behind the AI capabilities. You can see we all read the news, and we know the billions of dollars pounds they invested to develop the AI capabilities, but only few investment into the AI governance, the policy, regulation, etc. So this is a huge risk, especially when the human will lose the control for such the powerful capabilities. That's huge risk. But I am glad to see the things starting getting better and better, at least better than before.
Things are very definitely fast changing. As we were just discussing, it seems we're in a very different place now than we even were 2 months ago when we first started talking about this panel. So it has required us to stay quite relevant to what is going on. And it's very true. Internationally, it's unknown what different directions, different territories may take, how relevant that is, because just as you say, the EU mandates one particular approach. Does that mean everyone basically has to comply, similar to the change in the iPhone plug that we now are all doing?
Exactly. And we were just discussing before we started that we have some big elections on their way in the US, and we have a UK election probably next year, which could see us doing a whole different, doing this completely differently next year. If the Labour Party come in, who I think are a bit more open to AI regulation, they've not really said exactly what they would do, but I think they would be a bit more open to some of the kind of more regulatory EU side of AI regulation. But so we could do this panel again next year and have it completely different on a completely new set of circumstances. So it is fast changing, not least the technology itself.
100%. But as Hong mentioned, despite all of this, AI is here, and publishers and entire research community are employing AI in a variety of different workflows and a variety of different products. And it is providing opportunities for innovation and to do things. So Hong, what are some of the risks you see with AI when we're really thinking about how we use it in our practical day-to-day business, or perhaps what are some of the benefits?
Right. So I can see there's a lot of the risks, but also a lot of benefit. So I think especially the AI, and one of the first thing immediately in my mind is IP and the authorship. The IP, like what you said, copyright or etc. So now with AI and the blockchain, and also especially in the Web 3.0, from Web 2.0 to the Web 3.0, so we have the people have the more control and on their data, and also can easily to create the data and own the data. And also they engage, it's easier for them to engage, have the peer-to-peer interactions without intermediate. So it means this is creates the risk. Should we, especially now, we can see many of the publishers release the guideline to bind the AI as a co-author under the co-authorship, which makes sense because the AI is not 100% accurate, and we don't know how much accurate. And then also they're not accountable, they cannot respond to what they write. So, but in the future, should we rethink about it, the authorship? And also should we reconsider about the definition of the contribution? And also how much contribution and what kind of contribution we should consider as a co-author, or is can be the highlight. So I think this is this is the kind of things we need, we need to think about it. Another thing is the business model changes. Because AI currently, so far, most of the publisher, content provider, we just provide the content. It's text-based, image-based, but there's a lot of the high value, the information, knowledge embedded in the content. So how can we, apply the AI to extract this meaningful, valuable information, knowledge from this text-based content, unstructured content? And then, the current business is purely the subscription-based and the text content-based. But how about the new and business model for the knowledge-based? This knowledge service. So I think this is a kind of and also the infrastructure change. Infrastructure means with AI, is more and more the research work can be generated, can be created, and the richer information can be created. But and also it's a speed up, and from the authoring, from the research to the publishing, the time is dramatically reduced. It's become faster and faster. So how can we? Is it currently the infrastructure and the process can meet this? Can process this volume of the data, while we still guarantee the quality? Mm-hmm. No. So actually, and also for the many publishers and the societies, maybe they don't have the resource, they don't have the expertise to build this infrastructure and also to put in the AI, etc. And actually, maybe this is not even in their focus, business focus. So that's why the Wiley Partner Solution, we set up the group. We provide this the whole infrastructure, solutions, human expertise to support this. So this is another thing. So infrastructure with AI, so the infrastructure has to be changed. AI can contribute, can improve the efficiency and productivity while they reduce the cost. And also it can make a lot of things which human cannot do. For example, we can suggest the 5 most relevant reviewers from the 500,000 the reviewer database. So which is impossible for human to do this. So today. And another thing is about the integrity issues. Yeah. So the human, I think that I always mention the AI is a double-edged sword. So AI can be used to create, to improve the quality of research, improve the collaborations. But AI can also be used, it's power enough, can be used to create, the fake content, fake papers, fake images, etc. So this is something. So how can we apply the AI to do this? So integrity and also to detect the reference, fake references, etc. And the paper mill. And today you can see last night I just quickly searched the Google Scholar using some simple term and as an AI language, blah, 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 and also regenerate the response. So this is a fixed term, which is usually when the human use ChatGPT, and they just copy paste to into the manuscript. Most times they forgot to remove this, then they remove this sentence. So if you search, you can find a lot of the published one. So this is and also another thing is about how the AI put the pressures. I mean is for the human, because today, and many people may not aware of have the good understanding of the AI, because AI is not the perfect. It's still a lot of the problems, and many people think, oh, AI will replace human, replace our work. Actually, I don't think so. So AI is is not perfect. It's not 100% accuracy, and they cannot take any responsibility. So AI can only facilitate people and provide initial result. For example, in the image, the manipulations, So use naked eyes, human naked eyes, maybe it takes 1 hour to identify the issue. Use AI, maybe the 1 minute, less than 1 minute, but it still needs human to verify the result. So they cannot replace the people. They only can work with people to help people. So I think this is something, but another last one is kind of the machine. This is maybe not for the scholarly publishing, not only is for all, especially when the ChatGPT is this large language model. Even me, when I use more the ChatGPT, Google Bard, the generative AI, I feel that I rely on that more. But actually, we need to be careful because today, when the machine is becoming more like human, it's becoming smarter. But we don't want to humans become more like machine. So, yeah.
I think that's very true. Will, considering you kind of work across the publishing landscape, at least in the research and academics context here, and the participants here, what do you see some of the threats that AI is causing for our community and for, obviously, the people that we ultimately serve?
Well, sorry. I mean, yeah, like you said, I don't think this is limited to scholarly publishing, although it probably really heavily affects it. But it's worth mentioning the copyright infringement that's been carried out already. We know already by some AI firms, and that some AI firms are not seeking to obtain licenses, and that we know that some data sets that are being used in these systems have included books and material that have been copied from illegal sources. So we don't just generally know much of that in detail, and obviously this goes back to what I was saying about transparency earlier on, and we don't really know whether these licenses are being obtained from rights holders. And to go back to the code of practice that I was talking about, which is currently being discussed and by AI firms and right holders, some of the AI firms stated in those meetings that they had no need to obtain licenses, even though if you look at the kind of the UK's existing copyright exceptions, they clearly didn't really apply in those circumstances. So hopefully this might be something that the code of practice and the IPO can clarify and resolve. But I also should point out, in fairness, that some of the AI firms in those meetings do actually look to obtain licenses. So it's not every AI firm there. And I think it's a mistake that perhaps an unforeseen error by the government, that by choosing such an extreme option for their new copyright exception, it has set publishers, the creative industries, etc., against AI firms. And I kind of corrected myself earlier because I don't think that's how it should be seen. And I think this is where the IPO should have been and could be very useful by encouraging collaboration between those two. And, I think, of course, if you're a small publisher here, you might be thinking, hold on, there's a bit of an imbalance here, because obviously these very large AI firms, how can a small publisher license my content to them? How am I going to agree a fair terms and a fair price? But through vehicles such as collective licensing, which can bring together a large repertoire from small, medium, and large publishers, it can offer AI companies some convenient access to the licenses that they need, and also, of course, the data that's essential. So overall, I don't think it should be. We should see it as an economic argument. Licensing does help publishers and other rights holders earn from the copying and use of their works, but I think it's just having the option to license. It preserves the rights of a rights holder, and I think the government should really think very carefully if they are planning to dilute that. So I'd say that's my biggest threat. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Suffice to say, half an hour isn't quite long enough to get into all the complexities of the issues we're trying to raise. I think the one thing that we do know is that we don't know anything. I think this is what we did agree about earlier.
Be humble.
What we know now and the state of play today is going to be very different than it will be in a year, let alone 5 or 10 years into the future. But I do think it's very important that we try to be aware of the opportunities, but also the very real risks, challenges, and threats this technology poses. This is the beginning, and beginnings are very risky times, but they're also very exciting times. And I think from making things more efficient to allowing greater uses of creative products to be able to help us get our content into the global audience and to make it more accessible and reachable to our greater and greater communities that we serve, we're going to have better tools to be able to do that. And that is a general positive. So we are at the end of the time, but before we close, will we perhaps have a final remark from you both? Any last words on Hong you would like to?
The only, I just want to emphasize, I believe in the future, because many people mentioned, there's the competition between human and the AI. But for me, I think, the competition is not between human and AI, but it's between the human who can use AI and the people who cannot use AI well. So that's what I would say.
And Will?
Yeah, I think I would say I'm a bit of an AI optimist. I think Hong was right. That, the AI will be used as a tool, and it'll be very beneficial to probably everybody in this room. But I think on the flip side of that, the increased use of AI will only kind of increase the value that publishing brings. And I think, with everybody can remember when social media first kind of came out, we had Twitter or X as it's now known. There was talk about there would be citizen journalists, and it would be kind of the end of newspapers, etc. And don't get me wrong, social media has completely changed the landscape and how we consume content. However, with disinformation, misinformation, and AI can generate pictures of Donald Trump being arrested and all these kind of amazing things that are really convincing. I mean, it kind of got me. Something the Pope in the jacket kind of convinced me. But at the end of the day, people will start to question what they're seeing online. Is it even real? What is the reality of it? And I think this is where, despite the advances in technology and however AI evolves, people will look to publishers for trusted information that they can rely on, be that scientific scholarly publishing or news or whatever. So I'm cautiously optimistic about that.
Yes, in my opinion, AI is quite lucky to have communities such as ALPS involved in the development of this policy. We know the policy committee at ALPS is very reactive in trying to help get across our own members' interests when it comes to AI. And if any of you would like to know more about this, feel free to send me an email. I'm happy to share what it is that we are doing as a committee here at ALPS. And I also think that AI and our general communities are quite lucky to have individuals such as Will and Hong working on this. From both of your perspectives, I thank you, and I feel that there is a lot of hope that we can still have in the future on how things may progress. So thank you both for all of your participation, and thank all of you for attending. Thank you.